We're going to start with just a really quick introduction to Rylan and to myself. I've invited him onto this webinar today because I think what he's got going on at his company is really cool in the space of AI. And I think it actually is a great complementary to what we're doing over here at Wealthtender, how we're helping advisors as well. So using AI to capture and convert prospects with money in motion. So Rylan, would you mind giving a quick introduction to yourself? You're the co-founder of Wealthfeed, former advisor, anything you can share there.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Diana, and thanks for having me on. I'm super excited for this conversation. I think it's going to be really insightful and a little bit about my background. Like you mentioned, I was an advisor for about 5 years. I started in the wirehouse business, so I was out in Florida and joined JP Morgan's private bank for a couple of years there. Transitioned more to the independent advisory role kind of through that. So joined RIA out in Scottsdale and then spent a small stint out in Manhattan Beach, California, at an independent broker dealer. So kind of hopped around from wirehouse to independent to the REA model, and kind of through that journey, really realizing how important organic growth is as an advisor. But as a young advisor, kind of going through, it's extremely challenging. And I think every advisor that I talk to really struggles with organic growth and finding that next prospect. But on the flip side, it's really rewarding when doing that. So we launched Wealthfeed, and one of the co-founders head up most of the sales and development here. And so super excited to kind of share to you guys how we're helping advisors grow and really excited for this.
Great. That's amazing. So you have an awesome background because you've kind of been a little bit all over and you've been through the struggle. The struggle is real, especially in your first 5 years, like
Yeah.
trying to get in touch with prospects. It's really difficult. So thanks for sharing, Rylan. Thanks for joining us. I'll give a quick intro on myself in case you don't know me. My name is Diana Cabrices. I'm the chief evangelist here at Wealthtender, and I've spent really the last 8 years of my career helping financial advisors grow through both marketing and through technology. So I've worked for companies like Snappy Kraken, if you're familiar. I work with Wealthtender, White Glove, and I'm just passionate about personal branding, but also strategic and modern marketing. Like, what is it going to take to put your best foot forward, especially in the digital space, because it is such a heavy way people buy today. And that's what I hope to extend to all of you today is some of that experience working with advisors over the years and what I think you should be paying attention to right now. So let's move ahead. The very first thing that I want to share is a quick stat because I think this is important to sort of set the tone for the entire webinar. And that is that around 42% of investors switch financial advisory firms due to a catalyst event. Now, catalyst events are highly emotional events, things that are happening in your life that usually put your money in motion. That's in the title of this webinar, Money in Motion. And money in motion, the first time I really heard that topic, I immediately thought of like something like this, where you've got just like a bunch of money kind of floating from the sky, and somebody needs to do something with that money, which I know might sound really silly. And some of you, obviously, you're advisors, you understand the topic. But Rylan, I want to turn to you because I think it's important to sort of establish like what is money in motion by definition? When does that happen for investors who are then potentially like 42% of the time going to contact a new financial advisory firm for help?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And Diana, it's fascinating because we live in a interesting time where there's so much money in motion going on, and you could see on CNBC, trillions of dollars of wealth changing hands every year through the inheritance kind of life event. And there's other types of money in motion, whether, individuals are getting a divorce, getting married, all these life events kind of tie into that money in motion. But when you look under the hood of kind of an advisory's practice, it's never random for that prospect to join an advisory firm. No one wakes up one day saying, "Hey, it's Thursday. I'm ready to ACAT over $2 million today. Let's see where it goes." So it always stems from some sort of life event, some sort of trigger in that person's kind of thinking in terms of the philosophy standpoint of saying, "Hey, now's the time for me to seek help and seek guidance." And usually that always comes through that money in motion, really more down to the life event itself. So looking at different life events, I think really cause that money in motion, like individuals getting married, having a baby, inheriting wealth, that money motion really causes them to seek, hey, let's get a 529 plan set up for my new kid, or hey, I really need, help on the trust and estate service through this inheritance. And so the money motion, I think, is really pivotal for advisors, because as there's about three things that usually happen when someone goes through a life event. It's a great time to, acquire that client. But during, like, let's say your current clients that are already going through that life event, you run the risk of, maybe losing them to another advisor if, let's say,
Mm.
you don't maintain that relationship. And I think life events within the money in motion kind of circle really provide great ways to deepen relationships as well within the current client base. So it's not necessarily, money in motion of people that you don't know. I think it's looking through your own client book and your own prospects, really figuring out, where the money is in motion kind of across the board through these life events that we'll get to. So it's super important, I think, for advisors to look at this. And, I think the stats, like $4 trillion of wealth changing hands just on the inheritance side, and it causes a great opportunity for advisors to kind of get a slice of that AUM.
I could not agree more. The word opportunity is at the forefront of everything we're going to talk about today. And I really like how you position that, because this entire webinar was marketed as how do you get new prospects with money in motion, but your existing client base are going to experience these money in motion, these triggers that you mentioned. And I want to just quickly add something I said a moment ago is these triggers, these catalysts, they're often emotional events as well. And so that's important because we're going to touch on that later. Like, from a psychological marketing standpoint, how can you lean into that emotion as well? And yes, like being there to communicate with clients, et cetera, is super important. So thank you for expanding on that. And just for any of you who are on the call today, what I always like to do is kind of give you a sneak peek into what we're going to talk about. So you've probably seen this in some of the marketing when you registered, but four main things here we're going to cover is, number one, again, the biggest reason investors I don't know what I did that on that, misspelled it a little bit, but why they become prospects and how prospects become clients, right? It's not random, as Rylan said. How AI can help you discover prospects with money in motion. We're going to talk about like when you have a prospect who you've reached out to because you've captured them with AI or technology and they've got money in motion. What can you do on the back end so that as they start researching you, Googling your name, because they will do that, like what will show up and how can you really put your best foot forward there with online reviews, for example, in an online listing. And then finally, Rylan's also going to show you how to enrich your data on your existing prospects and even your clients to really quantify these opportunities, your pipeline, and all of that. So this is what we're going to cover. First things first is we're going to launch a quick poll. And you know what? I might have actually forgotten to add the poll officially. So I'm sorry about that. Let me see if I did. Yeah, I did. That's okay. So instead of actually doing a poll, what I'd love to hear from all of you in the crowd is if you could just type in the chat or the Q&A box, whichever one that you're most comfortable with. Do you use AI to find prospects? Is this currently a part of your marketing system? Is this currently part of your sort of growth system, if you will? It looks like we've already got one no. Thank you, guys. Sorry, I forgot to do the official poll. Okay, no, not yet. I like that answer, Tyler. All right, so Rylan, most people are saying no. Are you
Yeah.
surprised to see this?
I'm not. I think, we're in a new wave within kind of utilizing new tools and AI and capturing big data. And I think it goes to show kind of advisors are kind of not behind the times, but doing it archaically. Sometimes when I was an advisor, I spent as 12 hours as an analyst helping kind of the bankers in terms of prospecting. And, I was on Zillow, LinkedIn, aggregating
Yeah.
data, who was buying homes manually, and then
Yep.
trying to dig through property appraisal sites to find out who's on title and then find their contact information on LinkedIn or whatnot. So, there's ways to go about it, but it's, time is your biggest asset. So I think utilizing AI to kind of increase, the aggregation of this data is something that we're doing. But I think this is kind of a new wave that we see advisors kind of not utilizing, but kind of looking at the future of organic growth is going to be kind of a staple within their business.
Love it. And that's what excites me so much about number one, technology, but when you really use AI with that technology, like what it can do for you. And yeah, the days of scraping websites and data sites are over. Like AI is here to help advisors do that. So that's super exciting. So I think one of the biggest reasons I wanted to join you on this webinar as well, Rylan, is you've built a tool to handle all of this. And I think we would be doing the crowd a disservice if we didn't actually showcase that tool. So I would love if you could talk a little bit about Wealthfeed. Let's go to the next slide here and maybe just kind of share with the audience, like, what is Wealthfeed? And if you could even get into the tool and show us around, that would be amazing.
Definitely. Yeah. Happy to dive into the demo. I'll kind of set the thesis, initially kind of like I previously mentioned, but we know, hey, everything revolves around money in motion. And I think going through of how to aggregate, kind of to answer the question of, hey, who should I be reaching out to? Like, who's my ideal audience? Is something really why what we felt like what was currently going on within kind of systems was a little bit time consuming. And we felt like there wasn't a easy to use tool utilizing AI and aggregating this data that's out there in a quick way for me to generate kind of my ideal prospect. Looking at who if I get in front of, it's a slam dunk for me to convert. And I think that kind of all goes around your niche. And so every advisor, and I talk to a ton of advisors, and how they stand out is really building a niche. And the reason why we built Wealthfeed is to really like basically find that niche relatively fast. So you're not spending tons of time building that audience all around this money in motion where you have kind of the highest conversion to win the business because they're going through some sort of event in real time. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 where there's some sort of money in motion, but also it's your ideal client or ideal prospect, I should say. So the tool that I'll show you really is really awesome, where you could easily filter down whether it's a certain age range, demographic, certain company, occupation, different life events that you could toggle to really find, hey, like when I was an advisor, I went to University of Arizona, and if I could find more alumni from my school, like I had a better shot of closing the business. And now, with our tool, we could aggregate, hey, who went to University of Arizona, but just also moved to Manhattan Beach, where I currently live now. So
Hmm.
it's those types of kind of searches within our kind of discover feature that really lets advisors quickly aggregate, a list of who to reach out to and really who to stick in that marketing campaign
Hmm.
around it. And kind of some of the life events, we aggregate about 9 of them, and I'll touch on some that we think are more important than others. But this inheritance life event of kind of who getting in front of the new beneficiaries, kind of the next of kin, is really important, like I was mentioning, for advisors. And we're one of the only tools on the market that really could aggregate this in real time to help advisors get in front of that next generation. Because I talk to guys my age all the time and say, hey, if I hand you $1 million, where do you take it? And not a lot of times they say, hey, yeah, the local advisor across the
Yeah,
street.
right.
So we're trying to democratize the data that we're aggregating down to advisors on that local level for
Hmm.
them to have a higher shot on goal. Because if an advisor knows, let's say, of individuals going through some sort of life event within their neighborhood, they have a very high chance of trying to get in front of that individual and converting that prospect. So yeah, I'll kind of walk through our platform and kind of share my screen and kind of go through it. And obviously we're doing Q&A at the end, so feel free
Yeah.
to kind of add in questions as we go. But let me get my screen here up and running.
Perfect. And I'm glad that you mentioned that too. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Yes, we will have a live Q&A at the end. If you want to send your questions throughout, we'll make sure that we might cherry pick a few during the session just to make it meaningful, but usually we'll save them all for the end. So wonderful.
Awesome. So our platform, it's really easy to first get started and access, and we try to make aggregating this data extremely easy. And I'll talk through the 9 catalyst events, the 9 life events we aggregate, and each of those life events is a different data pipeline as well that we're ingesting. So a lot of the AI that we're implementing is in the aggregation of data in terms of how we're identifying people who are moving to a new state. How are we identifying the inheritances, job changes, promotion, all these different life events that we aggregate? We're utilizing AI in terms of aggregating that, but also cleansing and doing a lot of identity resolution to find, hey, John Smith just moved to Los Angeles. Here's all his contact information. So I'll kind of roll through a couple examples here. I'll start with Arizona here, where I'm from. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. So kind of, high level of our platform, advisors could hop in and kind of drill down to their location. And just to give you some context, this is all fake data. So none of these names are real and contact information. So, but all the features are what the platform has. And so, kind of coming through Arizona, I know when I was an advisor, we could say, hey, I want to focus on certain age ranges or certain income levels, or like I said, I went to Arizona, University of Arizona, so I could come in here and easily say, okay, lives in the state of Arizona that went to University of Arizona, and kind of drill down relatively quick around building that audience, like I said. Or I was just talking to an advisor yesterday, and he was like, hey, if I could get in front of, airline pilots, I know everything about their 401k, their RSUs, everything like that. So, drilling down by different industries or that company level is really important. And it just goes to show that the better niche that advisor has, that we see, has higher conversion. If they're
Mm-hmm.
targeted within their outreach, it's higher conversion around that organic growth, of aggregating more assets. So letting really advisors come in here and filter down relatively easy for certain companies or industries around it. I think getting granular, kind of going through it. I'm from Tempe, Arizona, so I'll kind of show you my hometown. Um, but what you could do, we have a cool map view feature where you can now kind of scan and almost farm your neighborhood of saying, okay, who around Tempe, Arizona State University might have some sort of life event around that. So I think it's about like accessibility of this data. Like our kind of mission and goal around this Discover feature is really kind of democratizing this. There's tons of data out there, but that solo advisor, sometimes can't access it in terms of it. So we're just providing them a very easy to use platform to get in front of their ideal prospect to grow. So I'll kind of walk through kind of that end product. So you could select any of these leads here, and
Mm.
I could get into pricing and how to utilize our
Great.
platform. But the data that you're accessing, around that, I'll come into a lead example. Like I said, this is all dummy data, but name, address, estimated household net worth, income range, home value, contact information, wireless numbers, emails, LinkedIn URLs, where he works. We pull in the relative tree. We really think relatives are important within prospecting, knowing
Mm.
kind of how the family tree sits.
Yep.
So pulling data through who the spouse and then who the siblings are. And then we believe property data is just as important of aggregating from prospecting. So knowing when they purchased the home, how much equity's in the home, who did the mortgage, all these really kind of ammo for that advisor to kind of build a prospecting campaign around. We're really giving that data to them to engage with that prospect. And we do a lot of mechanisms in place to make sure data accuracy is clean, and a lot of identity resolution. So we've been doing this for a while to make sure, hey, there's no fax numbers or bad numbers. We're getting mobile numbers, we're getting personal email addresses, so it's not going to their work email, LinkedIn URLs. We have some cool lifestyle attributes. Advisors are utilizing our data in a lot of ways, and I'll kind of talk through some of the different use cases, from email nurturing to
Mm.
direct mail to events. A lot of advisors having success utilizing events. And the question that always comes up is, who should I invite to the event? And I think our platform's kind of there for you to filter down your niche, whether it's a certain income range, net worth, and get in front of those individuals for that event. Um,
I just to chime in here, I definitely want to cover that because when it's one thing for advisors to get a list of prospects and get such enriched data, I think it's wonderful. But actually taking that next step and engaging with these people, and especially if they don't know you, right? There's
Mm.
sort of a mountain to climb there in and of itself. And so I think I'd love to talk about like how does the tool really help with that. I also would love to cover, maybe we do this first, is if you have an existing list of prospects, like can you put that in Wealthfeed and enrich that data, or like you mentioned before, your client base as well.
Mm.
Would love to know that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue for our two other features that we have. So what I went through was our Discover feature, which is aggregating net new prospects. But it's so important as we look through this money in motion lens. It's there's two other outcomes that usually happen. One is it's an opportunity for you to build deeper client relationships. And then also, you might not know this event's going on and hopefully not, but you could lose the business by some, another advisor kind of being there at the right time at the right place. So what we build is two other features to kind of help with kind of building this really full extensive business development tool. It's not about just net new prospects, but what about the prospects that you run into kind of in your sphere, your COIs, I should say, individuals that you bump into at the golf course, at Starbucks, whatnot. So we build, we're really good at aggregating information around contact information, network details, where advisors could bring their own lists, and there's a bulk upload option where you could just drop in fragmented data. So we don't need, let's say you just have a name and a location. That's all we need for us to kind of go out and enrich that data further. Or let's say you just have a phone number, but you don't know where that person lives, their net worth, or any other details. You could drop in phone numbers or emails or names and locations, and we'll go enrich that data set, providing you contact information, network details, where they went to school, really full enrichment for you to have a better idea of that prospect, and say, hey, maybe I should invite, that guy I bumped into to, a dinner or something, kind of to build your ammo around your own database and in the people that you're getting in front of already as an advisor. And so the enrichment tool really helps kind of one piecemeal kind of sometimes inaccurate data if they're getting leads through their website. Like we have advisors that they have great SEO and they're having really good traction online, but sometimes it's hard to prioritize who to reach out to. So
Yeah.
they'll upload their, lead lists that come through their website. And then basically we enrich for net worth details and they'll go focus on kind of the highest net worth around that. So that's a use case around the enrich. And then real quickly to touch on our last feature, it kind of goes to the point of building deeper relationships within clients. And I think a lot of times in every book of business, you kind of look through the client list and there's A clients, there's B clients, there's C clients, and then there's those like $50,000 accounts that you never talk to. And so
Mhm.
I think it's still important though, as we're going through these different life events, especially the inheritance one, where some of those C, D, clients that you don't talk to are secretly might be inheriting sizable wealth. And so this is where we're really monitoring your client base as also your prospect base. So you easily you upload your client roster here. You could just drop in kind of a CSV, basically showing, hey, let me upload this client list. And
Yeah.
basically we're easily saying, hey, okay, we'll run a back test for you and say, hey, in the last 13, last 3 months, here's what's happened in your book of business. And then going forward, we'll easily monitor those clients for you and ping you and notify you via email when any of your clients go through one of our 9 life events, whether it's a job change, a promotion, an inheritance, um, moving to a new state. So now you could be like, okay, hey, I should really get in front of that client. And we did a pretty big POC with a $5 billion REA, and there was a lot of those individuals that they didn't know were inheriting money,
Yeah.
uh, and they went through an inheritance event. And a lot of times that's kind of clients have multiple advisors, and they're going through a tough situation. Their first thing is not to transfer securities over, and so it's just sitting in cash, and it was sitting there for about 6 months until we did this monitoring test and flagged them saying, okay, I better reach out. I haven't talked to this client in a year. and they won the business from that end. So just
Yeah.
kind of cool use cases to deepen relationships. And, you're not just waiting to that annual review to find out they got a new job and let's roll over the 401k.
Hmm.
With our monitoring feature, you can know in real time and give them a call and be like, hey, I saw on LinkedIn you changed jobs. And so the conversation's like, hey, right time, right place. But we're helping advisors kind of streamline that kind of client relationship easily to build a deeper relationship within our monitoring capability.
Yeah, it's really making it more proactive. And
Yep.
we've got some really good questions, some that are also like for me, I'm raising in my own head. We'll get to those at the end, folks, and we'll try to get there as soon as we can. I think the last thing that I'd love for you to showcase is like, what does this tool, like, how does this AI tool help advisors? Now you have the prospect, but like, how do you properly engage with them? And I know you mentioned events, and I'm a huge advocate for advisor events, having worked with the team at White Glove, but other avenues that they can explore as well, like direct mailers as well.
Yeah, that's great. And, we have a really good pulse on kind of what's working because we have advisors doing everything. And, we're really kind of we're neutral. We're providing accurate data within, discover, enriching, and monitoring. And we don't force any advisor to do any sort of campaign around it. We really want to integrate and provide tools for each advisor to do something different that they are comfortable with. And so what we're seeing work great, and I think is kind of gotten not utilized a lot, is direct mail. And I think a lot of everyone's sometimes heavily focused on email campaign. They're missing a direct mail piece. And so within our platform, and it's not just direct mail. I think it's like a handwritten note that we've seen work better. And so I'll show you an example of an integration we did with a really cool company that does handwritten notes, and they
Mhm.
have machines now. It's like robots these days
Yep.
that write these notes and
Yep.
provide almost like a wedding invitation look and feel where it's hand stamped. Like I said, it gets past the trash. It's not one of those like flyers that you kind of just throw away. This looks like someone personally wrote this. Everything's handwritten through that machine that writes different characters each different way, so it looks really authentic. We have the ability for advisors to upload their logo. So this is just our
Mhm.
logo on the front for brand awareness. And then, I think the most important part is the messaging, whether it's an event or, hey, I'm just reaching out to the neighborhood, and you're utilizing our platform to be really targeted. And we're seeing a lot of success. We added a QR code feature. So that's kind of the first thing. I'll go back to the platform. Is It's like 4 quick steps for you to send a handwritten note out to a prospect,
Wow.
whether it's on the discover, the enrichment, or even monitoring. We have advisors sending handwritten notes to their current clients for birthday stuff and that end. So the first step that we do is say, hey, provide us a URL and we'll put a QR code on that. So when that prospect gets that note, and we have there's like a 99% open rate because it's not a flyer, and they open it, and the first thing they're going to do is probably be like, hey, I want to, I should learn more about this. Who just sent me this? And I think that's really the importance of online presence and website creation, and also you'll touch on it, and why I'm super excited about this webinar with Wealthtender, because you guys really help advisors kind of build that online presence within providing a platform for prospects and clients to give reviews on that advisor. And
Yep.
so we've seen, advisors that have a strong web presence, especially on the QR code, win more business because
Mhm.
it's authentic. It provides better credibility and real reviews. Um, so it's just quick 4 steps. You upload your logo, um, and then you kind of have a blank canvas. And we have some sample templates that we help with advisors. We're always
Great.
consulting advisors on kind of what to say and messaging, where you could type a note, in here and then finalize and get that sent out, whether it's just, one note or 1,000 notes. So we're
Mm.
really, I think the handwritten note piece is direct mail is just not getting utilized nowadays. And, I'm not sure if you're like this, but I get so many emails but I don't get that much, direct mail that I'm excited for, except when there's a wedding invitation that I'm really excited for. So I think this is a really cool capability that we've built in around the activation piece. So I'll kind of turn it over to you, Diana. I would love to, hear how some of the advisors within Wealthtender are kind of building their online presence, because I think it goes hand in hand with, sending different marketing channels around the QR code that we're doing.
Absolutely. This is awesome. And I know that there's other ways that you can help your advisors really engage with the prospects and clients. And I think if folks on the line want to like learn more about Wealthfeed, of course, like talk to Rylan, see this demo for yourself, and maybe do a one-on-one. But I would love to go ahead and reshare my screen, because what I want to showcase now is, when you do start engaging with the prospect, especially if you send a handwritten note, which I know some of you might be thinking, this seems a little bit creepy, but guys, this is the stuff that works. Like, this is the differentiation in your marketing that works. And the top producing firms, I can guarantee you, they're pulling out all the stops. They're hosting the events, they're sending the handwritten notes. And it's working well for them. So I just want to share, like, when somebody gets a note from you or they get an email from you, in today's day and age, like, the first thing that any of us are probably going to do is we're probably going to Google you just to figure out who you are. We're not going to Google your firm name. We're going to Google you as a person. And I actually invite everyone on this call to go Google themselves. Like, Google your name and see what comes up, because I've surprised a lot of advisors by telling them to do this, because what they think is happening is people search their firm name and that's where they have all the branding. But when they search their name, they might see there's like 5 other people with their same name that are like coming at the top of the search results, and they have no presence on that first page of Google. And it is so important in today's day and age, when people, consumers, are really doing their own research on you as they decide if they want to even engage with you further. You have some really good substance for them there. So I've shown this slide a few times on some of my past webinars. I'm just going to run through it quickly because I think it's important just to take a step back and understand, like, what does your online presence look like? I call it the financial advisor digital footprint. And I will say, like, most advisors have a website. Most advisors have some form of social media, although maybe there's not a lot of education or engagement, and that really is the purpose of social media. Some of you might have a podcast, but usually that's not like going to be mainstream for a lot of advisors. So there's just like some minimal ways here that people can look you up online or like go to your website and really start to get to know you to decide if they want to work with you. Remember, this process for them is emotional, because that life event, that catalyst, is emotional as well. But most advisors don't have a web listing. This is growing. This information, this number is growing, which is exciting to me. Most of you are probably not dabbling in online reviews just yet, just based on my, data and research and talking to advisors a lot about reviews. And then I would say very few of you are probably getting mentioned in the media or getting yourself featured on a blog, showcasing your expertise in some of those more credible channels. Because even though your website and you are a credible person, people look at those blogs and those media publications as very, very credible. So this kind of area in red is where Wealthtender helps advisors. And just a quick note on the web listing, some of you might not know exactly what that means, but if you think about other trust-based professionals like attorneys or doctors, they all have these sort of directories, these directory websites, these industries do, where you can go on and you can find a doctor and you can look at their reviews, or you can look at an attorney and see what other people have said about working them. And you can find them on a directory. You can plug in your location, what you're looking for, the kind of specialist that you want, and you can find them. You're not just finding them through their own websites, you're finding them through these like larger directories. Wealthtender has brought that into financial services. And we think it's really important, because now that the SEC has said green light to testimonial marketing, we wanted to build a tool that would help you do that. So it's two-part. It's a web listing, sort of a directory, and then it's where you can showcase your reviews. And what I like about this is even Michael Kitces has shared some data in one of his recent marketing reports that paid web listings are low cost and they're low risk and they're standout strategy. So what does that really look like? And like, where do we connect the dots between reaching out to these prospects on Wealthfeed and then them doing their research on you? Well, again, Wealthtender is a directory. People come to Wealthtender, about 500,000 people just in the last 12 months, looking for advice. They might be looking for an advisor. They might be looking to ask a question that they have or read an article on a very specific topic, like, I'm getting divorced, what do I do, kind of thing. And then we kind of serve up that content to them. We create the content. You can also spotlight your content. But really and truly, we're trying to present them with a credible financial advisor. Keyword credible. Again, they're doing their research on you. So they can search based on different specialization, like owning a business or needing help with estate planning, insurance, inherited wealth is even an option on here. And then they can also look by who you serve. So, do you work with baby boomers, or are you working with business owners specifically? Parents, young families, like whatever that looks like, tech executives, tech professionals. And then we kind of have your profile sitting here in front of you. So on these profiles, you're going to be able to showcase, what makes you unique, and we help you. We actually build your profile for you. But as they Google you, because our SEO dominance is so high, it's the best in the industry. I can showcase that for you in graphic. When you compare us up to like financialadvisors.com or some of the other popular directories, Wealthhtender comes on top. We have really good SEO. So more than likely when they Google your name, that's going to be at the top of Google. They're going to be able to learn about you. They're going to be able to know like what should they expect in the first meeting with you. They can easily book a call on your calendar, contact you. That goes directly to your calendar. We don't gatekeep any of the leads and try to sell them to other advisors. We're not in the business for that. So they can also see, SEC lookup. They can play a video of you. So again, we'll help you create this. We'll create it for you, and then we can beef it up for you together. But what's most important here is that they can also see what your clients are saying about you. This is such an emotional validation for people. We all read reviews. And especially if I'm going to hire a financial advisor, I am absolutely going to see if there's any reviews online. So we've created this fully compliant, it was the first SEC compliant online testimonial platform. And again, if they're Googling your name and you have reviews, Google recognizes us as an official review site. So those are going to pop up on the very top of Google. Even in the Google business profile, our reviews will pop up, and they're compliant. They have the disclosures. If you're out there asking for Google reviews or trying to promote Google reviews, you're actually out of compliance because they don't contain the disclosures. You become what they call entangled in this disclosure issue, and that is not compliant according to the SEC. Can also get mentioned in the media. We have relationships with journalists. We send you these alerts every single week to talk to a journalist who's looking for advice from an advisor on a very specific topic. So I won't dive into all of that. It's really a three-pronged sort of value add essential digital marketing platform, but it's a great complement to what we're doing, or to what Wealthfeed is doing with finding you the prospects, getting you in touch with them, and then letting them sort of on their own journey. About 56% of their buying journey they're doing on their own, letting them get that validation about you. This next slide real quickly it just goes into the power of the review. It's about 30 seconds long. This is Eod. He's an amazing CFP. I love him. Just want to share the power of the reviews here.
From traffic that I usually don't get my clients that way, right? It's very difficult. And I asked them why they chose to call me. And the gentleman said, you had a really good review on Google, a good review, which I only had one. It was a client that unsolicited, she put a review on Google, for me. And so just one review. And he said, hey, I chose to call you because it was a really good review. And that was like, okay, I have to figure out a way to harness this, because I knew the rule was coming, the change was coming. I think it was November of last year. So this was a couple months prior to that. It was over the summer. And then when Wealthhtender came out with this process, it was only, fitting that I, took it upon a part of my marketing practice, and you guys just made it really easy.
So he actually just got an unsolicited review on Google, which is fine. Like, your clients can unsolicited leave reviews on Google. That's not out of compliance. But the minute you start promoting them or telling people to go look at them, and even asking them, that's kind of a gray area to ask clients for reviews on Google. But he's not the first. Gary Barrasso, he's the CEO of United Financial Planning Group. He's also shared stories with us about how prospects were looking at his firm as a potential option for them when they had some money in motion, and also other firms. But it was those reviews that they had online that actually made the prospect want to move forward with them instead of the other firm. So overall, reviews are powerful. Wealthhtender makes it easy, and it's a great complement to what you're doing over at Wealthfeed, Rylan, because again, people are doing their own research. So I want to get to the questions. We have so many great questions. Rylan, would you add anything to what I just said? I'm going to pull up some of our questions here.
Yeah, no, Diana, I think that was great. And I think developing more of an online presence, and the reviews are crucial as prospects seek different opinions, and reviews is just so important. And I think the overarching theme is, being there at the right time, at the right place, and having a profile at Wealthtender for people to kind of come at their, at the right time for them is so important. And similar to how advisors utilize Wealthfeed, it's not necessarily, bringing up the event that we're identifying, but it's kind of tactically being there at the right time when there's some sort of money in motion. So the conversations are just kind of, hey, I'm just giving you a call. It's hopefully the right time for you. So I think that's kind of how I see, us working together, and advisors win more business, is just having the best presence for prospects to, when they're going through that money in motion event, or being at the right time for them to make a jump to an advisory practice, that you have the tools and presence available for them to kind of get all the knowledge they need to make an informed decision.
Yeah, I think that's like the front line of this whole webinar is like tactfully being there at the right time. Right time marketing. That's what I called
Yeah.
it when I wrote the promo for this. I don't even know if
Yeah.
that's an official term, but it's an important term. So we've gotten so many great questions. We're going to go ahead and do our live Q&A. For those of you who might not be able to stay during the whole Q&A, we'll also leave this slide up really quickly. So there's two different pathways here. If you want to learn more about Wealthtender, and we'll create a listing for you. In fact, Kimberly in the chat said, we use Wealthtender, and I was surprised how quick and easy the team made it to get all our advisors set up. I didn't do anything at all. Thank you, Kimberly. That's really sweet. If you're interested, we have a coupon code. It's just Wealthfeed. For 50% off our starter and growth package, which is going to be the most popular ones. It'll give you everything that you need. Wealthtender.com/grow. And then, Rylan, where can people learn more about Wealthfeed? And I see you have a discount here as well for them.
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of great information on our website. It's just wealthfeed.com. And within this webinar, we have a promotion going on until June 15th. So if you use the promo code Wealthtender at checkout, and how you get started to access the database is all through our website. It takes a minute to sign up. At checkout, there's a promo code section. So we're doing 50% off for 3 months.
Nice.
And so that brings down the cost to about $75 per month for that subscription fee for the first 3 months. So feel free to, reach out. I'll drop my email in here as well. Take a look at our website. You could always book another demo, and then take advantage of that promo.
That's amazing. I'm actually I'm typing the links in the chat in case anyone wants just a quick hyperlink to click on. So with this discount, about $75 subscription per month. So thank you for doing that, because I think there's somebody here that asked about pricing, and I think I'll just quickly cover too, like with Wealthtender, what does our pricing packages look like? We're very economical, and this is exactly how we design this tool, because it's about transparency to the consumer. The more advisors we have on the tool, the more transparency to consumers we have. So our starter package is $29 a month. Our growth package is $39 a month when we do this annually. And you can see here kind of what those include. And again, if you go to wealthtender.com/grow, you'll see all that there. I'll leave this slide up actually, and let's go ahead and get to our questions. So Rylan, I'm just going to kind of pick out these questions here if you're okay with that. Most of them are for you, which I'm not surprised.
Okay.
And let's see what we've got here. So the first one is sort of a situation. It's from Kevin. He says, my oldest son is the manager at Paradise Bowls in Manhattan Beach. My question is going to be, once you identify someone with money in motion, what's the best way to approach them? It seems like if you reach out to them, it might seem a little bit like you're a stalker. I'm sure you're going to discuss this later, which we did, but I wanted to read that again because we had another question about privacy. I think somebody had mentioned, clients worry about privacy of data, or people worry about privacy of data. How do we address their concern when they don't know a caller or when they receive a cold call? So just kind of bundling those together.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Those are great questions. And Kevin, I used to live in Hermosa Beach, right next to the Hermosa Paradise Bowls. I would have that acai bowl all the time. So small world. But anyway, data privacy is a big thing, and we take that very seriously. And at Wealthfeed, we've abide by there's something called CCPA and GDPR guidelines, and for third party opted in data, which means through our aggregation of data through these different life events, they've opted in for us to kind of aggregate that contact information some point down the line, whether they're getting their credit check or making a reservation or whatnot through different third-party apps that we partner with in terms of the data aggregation. So from a privacy standpoint, we've taken care of a lot of the checks and balances for regulatory issues to make sure everything that you're doing abides by outreach standards and running through do not call filters and stuff like that as well. So to kind of get to that question, it really all comes around, right time, right place marketing. I think from the advisor standpoint, the life event is your ammo to reach out to, not necessarily not necessarily the conversation to be had, but it's of saying, hey, like maybe someone going through an inheritance, hey, we're doing a free financial plan for the neighborhood. I'm just giving everyone a call to see if you're interested and, have any questions on investments. We have a, office down the street, we're just trying to build some brand awareness in the neighborhood. I have a lot of clients. You're kind of making that connection around the event, not necessarily, hey, I know you just inherited $1 million. It's
Right.
it's kind of the conversation that you do. And then it's also, an ideal nurture lead. Like the audience that you gather from our site, hey, this is your niche. They went to XYZ school, they're in this industry, here's their email addresses. These are people who you should be dripping on a monthly basis. And there's so many great tools, FMG Suite, Snappy Kraken out there that provide easy automation for this. And we're just giving you kind of the answer to the question at the top of the funnel, who should be seeing your brand? Because that's how you're going to grow organically. And that's why, you see why, Budweiser pays $10 million for a Super Bowl ad is because that audience is their ideal, they're beer drinkers. So that's what we're doing for advisors is building that audience at the right time, at the right place. And then I saw some questions come in on like, hey, how are we aggregating this data? It must be too
Yeah.
good to be true.
Mhm.
And we spent a lot of time, we've been working on kind of the data pipelines for about 3 years now. And I'll talk through the inheritance pipeline because that's something that we're doing different. And it starts with who's passing away. So utilizing AI, we actually aggregate about 3.5 million obituaries nationwide. So we're finding out who's passing away in real time through our software, and we're just building out the family tree. Is there a spouse? Is there beneficiaries? We know Bob Smith passed away. Now, how can we find the relative tree? And then once we do that, we know that the kids are receiving an inheritance because Bob Smith passed away and he owns a $3 million place in Los Angeles. That property and that wealth has to go to the kids or the spouse. And we're just building that tree and then enriching with contact information so that advisor has a method to reach out. So each one of our life events just has a different pipeline. Like new movers, we're plugging in directly to kind of change of address forms through credit card changes or USPS changes. So that's kind of how we're aggregating this kind of in real time, utilizing a lot of big data and AI automation through it.
Super helpful. I'm glad that you touched on that because I think, yeah, like people will think immediately you're flagging inheritance, but it's a little bit of a different process to get to that, and that makes total
Yeah.
sense. We have a few questions too on like competition. So, how is Wealthfeed better than all the other lead companies? How long should I expect to see results? And then another similar question is like, how are you different from Catchlight?
Yeah, great questions. And that's why we built Wealthfeed because we felt the tools that we're utilizing wasn't sufficient to yield results. And for example, LinkedIn, a lot of advisors utilize LinkedIn for prospecting. LinkedIn's a great recruiting tool and it's great data on there, but it's not necessarily a prospecting for advisors yet. Advisors are utilizing it all the time. And so there's great information from LinkedIn that we actually aggregate, like job changes and promotion data that way. But just because someone's a VP at a company doesn't make them a high net worth individual. So we're taking it a step further, really enriching it down to net worth data and income data and property data around that to better qualify those leads to reach out to those prospects. And like the other competition might live different sets of the funnel. We're trying to capture them from if you look at it from like more a psychology point of view, before they make a decision. So there's some like Smart Asset or some other of the competition that, we necessarily don't take business from because they live in a different kind of vertical, but we're actually capturing a lot of those individuals before they fall down to a Smart Asset, to a Zoe Financial, because we're finding, okay, Bob Smith passed away, no spouse, one kid, he inherited money. Maybe 6 months down the line, he's like, I need to do something. I go to Google, and that's where, a Google ad or a Facebook ad is capturing that. But if utilizing Wealthfeed, you're capturing that 6 months before they even made the thought to go to Google or to fall somewhere down the funnel. So we're, I would say a differentiator is a lot in, we're at the top of the funnel, as soon as the kind of event happens, in other words, and then trying to, kind of what brand do they think of initially? And I think that's where advisors see success, is nurturing that when they're ready to make the jump. And then to the Catchlight question, I think we're different in a lot of ways. The one similar point is our enrichment tool. I think us and Catchlight are doing similar things on enriching your data. So you could bring data to us and we'll enrich that with contact information, network details, and for you to make a better informed decision on who to prospect. But I think on the other side, it's also, how can I find more people that fit my niche? And that's where our Discover side comes into play. That's what Catchlight doesn't have necessarily. So advisors kind of come to us for really the full gambit of enrichment, similar to Catchlight, but also aggregating net new prospects to reach out to. And then also on the monitoring side, it's monitoring your book of business, because you got to keep your clients, that's a recurring revenue stream for you, and client relationships are just everything in the business. And so monitoring your book of business is another feature that kind of how we stand out from our competition, to make sure you're reaching out to any one of your clients that got a new job for 401ks or promotions and stuff like that. So that's a little bit how we're different.
And that's super duper helpful. I think that differentiates it beautifully. And like, that's the thing about marketing, folks, is it's a full funnel. It's left to right, top to bottom. Like, there's so many different segments within. And I think one of the areas that advisors maybe struggle with when they adopt new marketing tools and then they don't get the results they expect is like, how is it connecting to other parts of the funnel? Is it connecting to other parts of the funnel? Are you fulfilling all the different parts of the funnel with these tools? Or is it just one section? You need to be asking these questions. Clearly, with what you're doing, is you're providing them a lot of distribution that they wouldn't have had before, but doing it at the right time and right place. And like you mentioned, some of those other tools, FMG, Snappy Kraken, like those are great to like get the email nurturing going. And again, a Wealthtender kind of sits a little bit more upfront where you are, because that's when people are making their buying decision. So wonderful. Thank you so much for that. There is one more question for you. I'm going to quickly just read something that we got here, a comment from Angie, because I do think it's important to talk about. I talked about reviews and the SEC, creating the new SEC marketing rule, and FINRA had already done that in the past. But Angie said online reviews are not allowed by compliance in Washington State. And Angie, you are absolutely right. And so I want to just quickly touch on the fact that if you are state registered, you may not be able to do reviews. There are some states that have green lighted it. There are some states who have red lighted it, and there are some states where we kind of say it's like yellow light. And we're actually working really hard. The CEO of Wealthtender sits on the National Association of Compliance Professionals. We were emailing with Texas officials last week, and Texas looks like Texas is moving forward, which is really exciting. So we keep our advisors up to date on that too. Like, if you can't get started with the reviews right away, you can still have a profile, benefit from the SEO, the journalist relationships, the media ops. But once your state gives the green light and we're fighting for you, then you can get started with the review. So thank you for mentioning that. If anybody wants a list of like which states they can use, or like a list of what's green, yellow, red, let me know. And then someone just mentioned the Wealthfeed is invalid as a coupon on Wealthtender. I'm so sorry to hear that. I don't know why that's happening. If you could just drop me your email address in the chat, you can just directly DM me or post it as a Q&A if you'd want, whatever you feel good about. That would be great. And I'll put my email in the chat as well. So if you'd rather email it to me, you can. Okay, last question for you. And this might be something that maybe you'd want to take offline, is Kyle asks, for the direct mail, could you share some templates that are working?
Yeah, we have a bunch of templates. So we help advisors kind of consult on ways to engage prospects and have a ton of scripts around calling scripts, direct mail scripts. So for any users that do end up signing on, we automatically send a lot of stuff around kind of templates. So happy to share. I just put in our demo link too. So happy to have a one-on-one conversation around that. And then I saw some other questions come through on integrations and at the end of the month, we're launching a Wealth Box integration as well as Salesforce and HubSpot. So all this data that you're enriching and monitoring for notifications, as well as aggregating new clients through our Discover feature, we could pipe that data directly into your CRM. So make it easy for the advisor to engage in automation and marketing from there.
That is wonderful. I'm obviously Team Wealthbox. I worked with the Wealthbox team as well. They're wonderful. It's a great CRM, and I would say they're one of the best. They have so many integrations, and when it comes to marketing and getting data like this, it's crucial that that gets tagged properly in the CRM. That you have sort of your workflows kicking off. Like we could talk all along an entire other webinar about how that could all work together. So maybe that's a future webinar idea for you, Rylan.
Love it.
Okay, I don't know that we have any other questions. Again, if you, it looks like somebody mentioned that they couldn't get the Wealthfeed coupon to work on Wealthtender. Not sure why, but please email me, Diana@dianacabrices.com. I also put the Wealthtender email in the chat if you'd like. And then it looks like Kent has mentioned he just sent you an email. So I think with that, Rylan, this has been a successful hour of just education. And thank you so much for coming and joining me and showcasing a really cool platform. I hope that advisors take that next step in learning more, because I can see it as such a value add in an area of marketing where they're already struggling enough. So thank you, Rylan, and everyone who joined us. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.
I appreciate it, Diana. Yeah. Let me know. You have my email there. So anyone reach out for any questions, and excited to chat kind of one-on-one. So appreciate everyone's time, and thanks again for joining.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Yeah, see you guys.
Bye-bye.